The stars watched silently as the last human warship crumbled into dust 500 years ago. Or so the Xylar Empire believed. Deep within the Viridian asteroid field, where gravity twisted like wounded snakes and no sensor had touched for centuries, something hummed. Not loud, not threatening, just a whisper of electricity through circuits older than most galactic civilizations. A heartbeat that had never truly stopped, only slowed, waiting. Kalen Voss ran his weathered fingers along the activation panel, feeling the vibration travel up through his bones. He was 93 years old, which made him ancient by human standards under Xylar rule. Most of his species died before 70 now. Malnutrition, overwork, the quiet cruelty of an empire that had won and never forgotten who helped them win. "They're still watching the outer colonies, sir," said a voice behind him. Young, terrified, hopeful. Voss didn't turn around. "Let them watch, Lynn. They've been watching for 5 centuries. They've never seen what's about to happen." The facility wasn't large, perhaps the size of a Xylar cargo hauler, but its walls contained the sum total of human technological achievement from before the betrayal. Before the Xylar came with promises of alliance and left with blood on their claws. Before they dismantled every piece of human innovation, claimed it as their own, and ground humanity into dust beneath their heeled feet. Humanity had been young then, naive. They'd trusted the Xylar's smiling diplomats, shared their secrets of quantum entanglement communication, their advances in energy distribution, their understanding of phased array weaponry, all the things that made a species valuable to an empire built on conquest dressed in silk. The Xylar had taken it all, and then they'd taken Earth. "You're sure the activation sequence will propagate?" Lynn asked, stepping closer. She couldn't have been more than 20, born into servitude on a Xylar mining colony. She'd never seen a free human being until Voss found her 3 years ago, reprogramming a Xylar harvest drone to tend flowers instead of crops. Voss smiled. It wasn't a kind smile. It was the smile of a man who had spent 50 years dreaming of fire. "The activation sequence isn't in this facility, Lynn. It's not in any facility. It's in the code the Xylar have been using to run their empire for the last 500 years. Every ship, every station, every weapon. We put it there before they ever attacked, before they ever showed their true faces." He pressed his palm against the final lock. The scanner read his DNA, his biometrics, and something deeper, the genetic marker of the Voss line, passed from parent to child for 20 generations, each one carrying the secret of what they'd hidden in the dark. "The Xylar believed humans had forgotten," Voss said quietly. "They believed we accepted our place, that we were broken." The facility came alive. Lights flickered to life across walls covered in symbols no Xylar had ever seen. Screens activated showing thousands, no, millions of nodes scattered across the galaxy. Each one a dormant program, each one a seed planted in stolen soil. They believed wrong. Across the galaxy, in the gleaming capital city of the Xylar Empire, Supreme Commander Thrax Vale watched his breakfast console flicker. He tapped it twice, annoyed. The device stabilized, but for just a moment, just a single heartbeat. He could have sworn he saw text in a language he didn't recognize scroll across the screen. He dismissed it as static. 1,000 light-years away, the first Xylar warship lost navigation. The galaxy would never be the same. The Oblivion's shadow was the pride of the Xylar 7th Fleet, a dreadnought capable of glassing planets from orbit. Its captain, Vexar Tor, had commanded the vessel for 70 cycles and never once experienced a systems failure. Today he experienced 3. "Report," Tor's voice cracked through the bridge as alarms blared from every station. The navigation array had collapsed first, spitting coordinates that placed the ship simultaneously in 5 different star systems, none of which were where they'd actually been heading. Then the weapons grid went dark, all 200 plasma cannons simply refusing to respond to any command. Finally, the life support began cycling at 10 times normal speed, flooding the lower decks with recycled air so cold that crew members were reporting frost forming on their armor. "Engineering doesn't understand, Captain," his first officer stammered, claws clicking nervously against the console. "They say the systems are operating exactly as programmed. The programming has just changed." Tor's blood ran cold. Changed how? "Human language, sir. The base code has been overwritten with human linguistic architecture. It's as if," the first officer paused, his translator implant flickering, "as if it's been there all along, waiting. Across the Empire, the same scene played out in 1,000 variations. Cargo haulers drifted dead in shipping lanes. Planetary defense grids cycled through targeting solutions that made no tactical sense, locking onto Xylar military installations instead of potential external threats. Communication relays transmitted static that, if decoded, would have revealed a single repeating phrase in ancient standard human. "We remember." Supreme Commander Thrax Vale stood in the Imperial War Room, surrounded by the most advanced tactical display ever constructed. It had been dark for 6 hours now, not broken but refusing to display anything useful. Instead, it showed constellations, human constellations, Orion, Ursa Major, Canis Minor, the stars Earth had once looked up to. "Explain this," Vale said quietly, too quietly. His subordinates recognized the tone. It was the voice he used before executions. The chief technologist, a trembling Xylar named Yix, stepped forward. "Supreme Commander, we've identified the issue. There are fragments in the code, ancient fragments predating our acquisition of human technology. They've been dormant in every system we stole," Vale interrupted. Yix swallowed, acquired. "They've been present in every system we acquired from human sources. The fragments are self-replicating, undetectable under normal diagnostic scans, and now they've all activated simultaneously." "Activated how? To what end?" Yix's claws left scratch marks on the floor as he shifted his weight. "To demonstrate that we never truly controlled any of it, Supreme Commander. The humans always had the ability to do this. They simply chose not to, until now." Somewhere in the lower districts of the capital planet, in a recycling facility where humans sorted Xylar waste for 14 hours a day, Myra Chen felt her data slate vibrate. She pulled it from her pocket, a cracked, outdated model the Xylar had discarded years ago, and read the message on its screen. "Phase 1 complete. Prepare for Phase 2. She looked around the facility. 50 other humans worked alongside her, their faces blank, their movements mechanical. The Xylar overseers had automated whip drones floating overhead, but the drones hadn't moved in 20 minutes. Their red eyes were dark, their targeting systems were offline. Myra stood up slowly. No one told her to sit down. "Hey," she said, her voice soft but carrying. "Hey, everyone." Heads turned, tired eyes, broken eyes, eyes that had forgotten how to hope. "The doors are open," Myra said. "The fences are off. The drones are blind." She walked toward the main gate. It slid open at her approach. No keycard, no code, no permission. "Who wants to come with me?" For a long moment, no one moved. Then a young man stood, then an old woman, then a child. The Xylar overseer ran to call for help. His communicator showed nothing but static and a single message in a language he couldn't read. "We haven't forgotten anything." Myra led 47 humans out of the recycling facility and into streets that had never seemed so quiet. The capital city of Xylar Prime was designed for intimidation, towering spires of polished obsidian, bridges that crossed artificial canyons, holographic banners displaying the Emperor's face projected every 10 meters. Normally, those banners moved, speaking propaganda in a dozen languages. Today, they were frozen. Every single one showed the same image. A human face. Not threatening, not angry, just watching. A woman with dark skin and gray-streaked hair, her expression unreadable. Beneath her image, text scrolled in every Xylar dialect. "You took everything, we let you. Now watch what happens when we stop letting you." "Who is that?" whispered the young man who'd stood first in the facility. His name was Dorian. He'd been born in captivity, never seen Earth except in forbidden history files smuggled on dead data chips. Myra didn't answer immediately. She was staring at the face on the banners. She'd seen it before, not in person, but in recordings her grandmother had shown her as a child, whispering stories of the woman who'd cracked the Xylar encryption protocols single-handedly, who'd built the backdoors into every system the humans gave away, who'd vanished during the betrayal and was presumed dead for 500 years. "Her name is Maylin Voss," Myra said finally, "and if those banners are showing her face, she's not dead, she's been waiting." A massive boom echoed across the city, not an explosion, but a sound like the sky itself tearing open. Myra looked up and watched as the Imperial Defense Network's orbital platforms began to move, not toward any external threat. They were repositioning themselves in a perfect grid. A grid that formed a human constellation. Inside the Xylar High Command bunker, Supreme Commander Vale watched the same display with growing horror. His fleet was crippled, his cities were going dark, and now his own weapons were rearranging the sky into human symbols. "Yix," he said slowly, "you told me these systems were secure. You told me the humans had no capacity for resistance. You told me they'd forgotten." Yix had no answer. His claws trembled against his chest. "I want every human on Xylar Prime rounded up and detained," Vale ordered. "I want them in camps before the next planetary rotation, and I want May Linvos found. If she's alive, I want her dead." The orders never reached the troops. Not because the communication systems failed, though they did, but because when the guards arrived at the barracks to mobilize, they found their weapons wouldn't fire, their armor wouldn't seal, their vehicles wouldn't start. And standing in front of the barracks, arms crossed, waiting, was a human woman none of them recognized. She was tall for a human, with silver-streaked black hair and eyes that held the weight of centuries. She wore no armor, carried no weapon, and seemed utterly unbothered by the dozen Xylar soldiers frozen in confusion before her. "Let me save you some trouble," May Linvos said. Her voice was calm, almost friendly. "You can't round us up because we're not where you left us. You can't kill me because I've been dead for 500 years as far as your records are concerned. And you can't win this because you never understood what you were fighting." She took a step forward. The soldiers stepped back. "You thought we gave you our technology out of trust, out of friendship, out of stupidity." She smiled, and it was the most terrifying thing any of them had ever seen. "We gave it to you because we wanted you to build your empire on a foundation we designed, and foundations can crack." Behind her, the city's lights began turning off section by section, not randomly, from the outer edges inward, as if someone was methodically deleting the Xylar presence from the planet. "The betrayal happened 500 years ago," May said. "We've been planning our response for every single day since." She walked past them into the barracks. Every lock clicked open at her approach, every soldier's weapon powered down. "We didn't forget," she said over her shoulder. "We were just waiting for the right moment." A holographic screen flickered to life on her wrist. Myra's face appeared. "The facilities on the outer colonies are emptied," Myra reported. 12 million humans are moving toward the transport hubs." May nodded. "Start Phase 3. It's time they learned what patience really means." Day 2 of the collapse. Xylar Prime had become a ghost of its former glory. The obsidian towers still stood, but their lights were gone. Every system powered by human-derived technology had simply ceased to function. Only basic life support remained, and even that flickered unpredictably. The Xylar, a species built on control and hierarchy, found themselves fumbling in the dark like hatchlings taking their first steps. Supreme Commander Vale had retreated to the last functioning section of the Imperial Palace, a bunker built before the Human Alliance, powered by ancient Xylar geothermal technology that couldn't be compromised. It was cramped, it was hot, it was humiliating. And it was the only place left where his commands still meant anything. "Status report," he growled at the communications officer. The officer, a young female named Vexa whose crest had gone gray with stress, shook her head. "Supreme Commander, the situation is unprecedented. Every Xylar military vessel has lost propulsion. Every planetary defense grid is offline. The human facilities across the Empire have all reported mass escapes. We have no way to pursue, no way to contain." "No way to fight," Vale finished for her. Vexa hesitated. "There's more. The humans aren't just escaping. They're organizing. Communication networks have been established between former human colonies. Networks we can't access, let alone disrupt. It's as if they've been preparing for this for centuries." "They have," said a voice from the doorway. Every head turned. A human stood there, an old man in simple worker's clothes, his face weathered and his hands calloused. He should not have been able to enter the Supreme Commander's bunker. The door required genetic authorization. The guards outside were supposed to be Vale's most loyal soldiers. The guards were nowhere to be seen. "Who are you?" Vale demanded, reaching for his sidearm. The weapon didn't respond to his touch. Its power cell was dead. "My name is Elias Voss," the old man said. You've been looking for my mother for the last 30 hours. She's busy, so she sent me instead. Vale's blood chilled. Mei Lin Voss is your mother. She was my grandmother's grandmother's grandmother, actually, but we keep it simple. Elias walked into the room like he owned it, which, given that his family had built the systems that ran it, he technically did. I'm here to deliver a message. He pulled a small device from his pocket, something that looked like a child's toy, all blinking lights and mismatched components. He set it on the central command table. Every system you stole from us, Elias said, every weapon, every ship, every communication network, every power grid, they're all running on architecture my family designed. My mother designed. We built failsafes into failsafes, backdoors into backdoors. You didn't just build your empire on our technology. You built it on our permission, and permission has been revoked. The device on the table projected a holographic map of the galaxy. Red dots marked Xyler-controlled systems. Blue dots marked human escape routes. The blue dots were spreading like an infection through the red. You have 12 hours, Elias continued. In 12 hours, every Xyler ship that still has power will receive a single jump coordinate. Those coordinates lead to uninhabited systems with habitable worlds. You'll have food, water, shelter, everything you need to survive as a species. Vale's claws dug into the table, and if we refuse? Elias shrugged. Then you'll stay here, in the dark, with no weapons, no communications, no way to coordinate. Your empire will fragment into 1,000 squabbling factions, and within 3 generations, the Xyler will be a footnote in galactic history. A cautionary tale about what happens when you betray the people who trusted you. Outside the bunker in the streets of Xyler Prime, Myra watched as human families walked freely through districts that had been forbidden to them for centuries. Xyler citizens watched from their windows, not with anger but with confusion. Their entire understanding of the universe was crumbling around them. What happens now? Dorian asked, walking beside her. Myra looked up at the sky. The orbital platforms had finished rearranging themselves into human constellations hours ago. Now they were broadcasting something on every frequency, not a message, but a song. An old human song her grandmother used to hum, something about home. Now, Myra said, we show them what we really are, not victims, not conquerors, just survivors, and we offer them the same chance someone should have offered us 500 years ago. To surrender. To choose, Myra corrected. For the first time in their history, the Xyler get to decide their own fate, whether they become better or whether they become nothing. That's up to them. Her data slate buzzed, a message from May. The ships are ready, come home. Myra had never seen Earth, neither had her parents, neither had her grandparents, but she could feel it, a pull in her chest, a warmth in her blood, a call across 500 years of exile. She turned to the humans gathered around her, thousands now, more arriving every hour. Who wants to go home? The cheer that went up shook the empty towers of the fallen empire. The Xyler Supreme Commander refused the offer. Vale stared at Elias Voss across the bunker's command table, his pride warring with his survival instinct. Pride won. It always had with the Xyler. You expect me to surrender my empire to a species we defeated? Vale's voice dripped with contempt. To crawl to an uninhabited world like a wounded animal while humans walk through our cities. I would rather see every Xyler dead. Elias didn't flinch. He'd expected this. His mother had warned him that pride would be the Xyler's undoing. Then you'll see exactly that, Elias said quietly. Not because we kill you, because you kill yourselves fighting over the scraps of what you've lost. He turned and walked out of the bunker. The door sealed behind him, not locked, simply closed. The Xyler could open it if they wished, but they wouldn't, not until it was too late. Outside, the human evacuation was nearing completion. Ships that had been hidden for centuries, preserved in asteroid fields, buried under lunar surfaces, disguised as debris fields, rose from their hiding places across the galaxy. They were old, they were battered, but they were human. And they were hungry. Mei Lin Voss stood on the bridge of the Remembrance, the flagship of this resurrected fleet. At 473 years old, she was the oldest living human by a margin of centuries, kept alive by experimental medical technology she developed specifically for this moment. She had watched generations of her family grow old and die while she waited. She had outlived children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren. Also, she could be here when the plan finally bore fruit. Fleet status, she asked. Her tactical officer, a young woman named Sana who'd been born on a Xyler prison colony, grinned. 37 capital ships, 212 support vessels, crew complement just over 300,000, every human who wanted to fight. And those who didn't. Already on their way to the new colony worlds, the Xyler don't even know those worlds exist. We hid the coordinates in the ghost data. May nodded, and the Xyler military. Sana's grin widened, blind, deaf, crippled. They can't fire a single shot without our permission, which obviously they don't have. May turned to face the main view screen. Ahead of the fleet, the Xyler homeworld rotated slowly, a marble of black and green, ringed by the orbital platforms that were now broadcasting nothing but human constellations and that old folk song. Open a channel, May said, all frequencies. The communications officer hesitated. To the entire galaxy, ma'am. To the entire galaxy. Static crackled across every screen in every system. Then May's face appeared, calm, ancient, and utterly implacable. This is May Lin Voss, she said. 500 years ago, the Xyler Empire came to Earth with smiles and promises. They called us friends, they called us allies, and when we gave them everything they asked for, they burned our cities and enslaved our people. She paused, letting the weight of those words settle. Today that debt comes due. We are not attacking. We are not conquering. We are simply taking back what was stolen. Every human ship is being recalled. Every human prisoner is being freed. Every human world is being reclaimed. On Xyler Prime, Myra watched the broadcast from a rooftop, surrounded by humans who'd never known freedom. She saw tears running down faces she'd never seen cry. The Xyler have 12 hours to evacuate the systems they stole from us, May continued. After that, those systems will be locked down. No Xyler ship will be able to enter. No Xyler weapon will function within. We are not asking for permission. We are not asking for forgiveness. We are simply stating facts. The broadcast ended. The galaxy held its breath. Inside the bunker, Vale stared at the dark screen. His pride warred with his survival instinct once more. Survival lost. All Xyler vessels, he said, his voice hollow. Initiate evacuation protocols. We're leaving. His subordinates stared at him in shock. Supreme Commander. We're leaving, Vale repeated, before they changed their minds. The evacuation took 9 hours. Xyler ships, crippled but functional, limped away from human-controlled space, carrying an empire's worth of wounded pride. They headed for the uninhabited systems the humans had offered, knowing they would never be allowed to leave them. Not on human technology, anyway. As the last Xyler vessel disappeared from sensor range, Myra stood on the surface of Earth for the first time in her life. The air was clean. The Xyler had never bothered to pollute a world they'd conquered. They'd just ignored it, let it grow wild while humans worked in factories that processed resources from other planets. She knelt and touched the soil. It doesn't feel like revenge, she said quietly. Dorian knelt beside her. No, it feels like coming home. Above them, the Remembrance entered orbit. May Lin Voss looked down at the blue-green planet she'd been fighting to reclaim for 5 centuries. She didn't smile, she didn't cry, she just felt tired and ready to rest. But not yet, there was still work to do. The war lasted 3 days. Not because the Xyler fought back, they couldn't. Their ships drifted uselessly, their weapons refused to charge, their communications broadcast nothing but static and the same human folk song on loop. The war lasted 3 days because it took that long for human vessels to reach every Xyler stronghold and accept the surrenders that were already waiting. Xyler soldiers didn't resist. They couldn't. Their armor wouldn't seal, their vehicles wouldn't start, their barracks doors wouldn't lock. Human civilians simply walked into command centers and found Xyler officers sitting at dark consoles, waiting for someone to tell them what to do. The galaxy watched in stunned silence. No species in recorded history had ever defeated an empire as vast as the Xyler without firing a single shot. No species had ever dismantled an enemy's entire technological infrastructure with nothing but code and patience. No species had ever waited 500 years for revenge and then refused to take it. But humans weren't like other species. On the fourth day, Linvas convened the first galactic council in 5 centuries. Representatives from every major species attended, some eager to meet the mysterious humans who'd broken the Xyler, some terrified of what might come next, some simply curious. May stood at the center of the council chamber, looking small and fragile, surrounded by beings twice her height and 3 times her mass. But when she spoke, no one interrupted. "We're not here to conquer," she said. "We're not here to punish. We're not here to take revenge on anyone except those who personally enslaved us, and we've already dealt with them." She pressed a control on her wrist. The chamber's display screens lit up with charts, maps, data streams, everything the humans had learned during their centuries of observation. "We're here to fix what the Xyler broke: trade routes, diplomatic channels, resource distribution. The Xyler ran this galaxy like a protection racket, and everyone let them because no one had the power to stop them. We have the power now, and we're using it to build something better." A representative from the Avian Veth Collective rose to his full height, feathers ruffled with suspicion. "And what do you want in return, human? Every species in history has wanted something." May smiled. It was the first genuine smile she'd shown in days. "We want what we've always wanted: to live, to grow, to explore the stars without looking over our shoulders. That's it." "That's all." "Humans don't need empires," May said. "We tried that once before we met the Xyler. It didn't work out. What we need is hope, and we're hoping you'll let us share ours." The council was silent for a long moment. Then, one by one, the representatives nodded. On Earth, Myra watched the council proceedings on a salvaged view screen, surrounded by the first generation of humans who would grow up free. Children played in fields that had once been factory floors. Families ate meals prepared from food they'd grown themselves. Old people sat in the sun and remembered what it felt like to not be afraid. "Are we really doing this?" Dorian asked, sitting beside her. "Building something new?" Myra looked at the children, at the families, at the old people who'd waited their whole lives for this moment. "We have to," she said. "Otherwise, what was any of it for?" 3 months later, the last Xyler holdouts surrendered, not to human weapons, to human kindness. Human ships arrived at the evacuation worlds with food, medicine, and supplies the Xyler hadn't been able to manufacture for themselves. Human doctors treated Xyler sick. Human engineers helped Xyler refugees build shelters. Supreme Commander Vale, stripped of his rank and living in a modest dwelling on a modest world, watched a human child hand his granddaughter a flower and didn't understand. "Why?" he asked the human guard who'd been assigned to protect him. "Why are you helping us?" The guard, a young man named Marcus, whose parents had died in a Xyler labor camp, shrugged. "Because we're not you," he said. "We don't build empires on other people's suffering. We build gardens." He gestured to the fields around them, where humans and Xyler worked side by side for the first time in history. "It takes longer, but the harvest tastes better." That night, Linvas stood on a hill overlooking the rebuilt city of New Angels on Earth. She was tired, so tired. 473 years was too long for any human to live, even one sustained by medical miracles and stubborn will. But she had seen it through. She had brought her people home. "Mama," said a voice behind her. She turned. Elias stood there, older now, not young, not old, but somewhere in between. He'd lived a full life. He'd raised children. He'd watched his mother fight a war of patience and win. "Is it over?" he asked. May looked up at the stars. Human ships moved between them now. Human colonies flourished on a dozen worlds. Human children dreamed of futures that didn't include chains. "It's over," she said. "For the first time in 5 centuries, it's over." She sat down on the hill, her old bones creaking. Elias sat beside her. "What do we do now?" he asked. May laughed, a sound like wind through old trees. "We live, we love, we learn from our mistakes so we never have to do this again." She leaned her head against her son's shoulder. "And we remember, we always remember." Above them, the stars watched silently. But now, for the first time in 500 years, they watched over a humanity that was finally, truly free. The Xyler had believed humans had forgotten the betrayal. They had been wrong. And the galaxy would never make that mistake again. The end.